we're going to go through a set list of questions. Actually,
Okay.
sorry. Scott, is personalization for real?
Wow, the deep question. To start off with the deep question, right? Actually, before I even do that, I think
Yeah.
I need to give the 97% of the people in here that have never heard of Drizly the one sentence on what Drizly is, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
So we're a US-based company. We operate only in the US. We facilitate, we're an app, and we facilitate the sale and delivery of alcohol. So retailers sign up on our platform, consumers come, they purchase alcohol, beer, wine, and liquor, and the retailer delivers that in under 60 minutes. So, okay, that's my one sentence
Awesome.
to get that out of the way. Is it real? It's real. I think actually, you know, I'm going to reframe your question. I'm going to say, is personalization ever really achievable? Is really the thing I'm going to ask. And the reason I ask that is that I think it's always a journey. I think we're okay at personalization. I think 12 months ago we were terrible at personalization.
Right.
Today we're okay at personalization, but it is just a journey.
Yeah.
So it's real, and of course you can keep getting better, and you keep getting better over time and over time. But for us, we're only like part way scratching the surface into this journey, and you know, we're years away. We will get better. Personalization's real. The question is is how good you can get at it, I think.
Awesome. So is personalization different in your world than retail or e-commerce?
Yeah, you know, the truth is I think it's mildly. You know, I know we're mobile first.
Right.
You know, we're an app, and the vast majority of the transactions are on our app or
Right.
on mobile. So we're very much mobile first. At the same time, I never approach things that we're mobile first. I much more look at it that we're consumer first, right? And then we have people that interact in different channels. But first and foremost, it's consumer and understanding the journey. So we will have people that come on our platform or that come on our website actually,
Right.
and give us their email and never transact. And for those people, the channel of choice is email.
Right.
We have other people that download the app and sometimes don't transact. And for those people, the channel of choice is of course push. We don't even have their email.
Yeah.
So for us, we're a little more channel agnostic, and we're much more interested in what that consumer journey really is.
Brilliant. So I know you've prepared a keynote for us. I can't wait to hear it, so take it away.
Okay. Very good.
And here you go, sir.
Thank you. Okay, there I am. Let's see. CRM at Drizly. I wanted to walk everybody through how we think about CRM and personalization specifically, where we are today, where we're going to go a little bit as well. So first, just a step back. We compete in a pretty big industry. Alcohol, beer, wine, and liquor in the United States, $130 billion industry. However, e-commerce is just scratching the surface, just over 1%. Good news is it's growing 40%. Not us, but the e-commerce industry for alcohol is growing 40%. The overall industry is growing about 3-4%, and e-commerce is growing 40%. So it's catching up, but we certainly have a long way to go. We're just scratching the surface today. Now, what is Drizly? I mentioned a second ago, Drizly's really a marketplace, right? We're not a retailer. We sit outside of the 3 tiers, for people that might know about the 3 tiers in the United States, but we're a marketplace. So we sign up retailers. Retailers come and give us their inventory to work on our platform, and then we aggregate demand. We get consumers from all over the country to come to us and buy from specific retailers on our platform. Founded several years ago, we're in 31 states, over 100 markets. We have 800 retailers signed up. Probably at this point, it's probably closer to 900 retailers, to be honest, since the time I even wrote this. So we have a lot of retailers, and we get a lot of demand. And this is what the consumer experience looks like, right? So on the home page, on the left, you'll see the home page. And this looks like, this is, I guess, the opening page on the app as well. And you come and you shop for beer, wine, and liquor, whatever you might want. But then the experience changes dramatically because we're not a retailer. We're just a marketplace. So when you go to the product page, you can see here there's actually multiple retailers that anybody can choose to shop from. And we like to think it's a really transparent shopping experience for consumers. They can choose based on price. Sometimes that varies really widely for the same exact product. They can choose by price. They can choose by delivery time. They can choose by store rating. They might have an affinity for a particular retailer, and they can choose that as well. So we like to believe that we sign up the retailers, we aggregate the inventory, and then we provide the most transparent shopping experience that the consumer can have. And how are we doing? Well, we're doing all right. I like to think 90% growth, CAGR over the last 3 years is just not so bad. And this is mostly on mobile, as Raj mentioned, mobile first. So close to 70% of our orders are on the app itself, another 10% on mobile web. So close to 80% of what we do is on a mobile device. All right, so that's a little bit about the marketplace and a little bit about Drizly. And then I'm going to go into CRM and how we view the world, how we think about CRM at Drizly. So I think of 3 goals for my CRM team. The first is convert new users. Some people come, give us enough information to engage, but they don't actually transact. So there's a very clear goal to get those people to transact eventually. The second, and actually even bigger goal for that team, is about driving repeat and building the relationship, right? People come, they make that first purchase. How do we build that into a long-term, profitable relationship for us and a good relationship for the consumer as well? And the third thing I'll put in here that not everybody would list under a CRM goal is building the brand. I feel really strongly about this, right? We all in this room, we Drizly, we send out a lot of emails. We send out a lot of push notifications. And it's oftentimes, it can be very one way, right? Buy here, buy here, buy here. And actually, I look at this sum total of communications as a way to build the brand, as a way to build connection. We're missing something, I think, if we don't use all of those communications. If it's always just asking for that purchase, we're missing something if we don't use their communications to try to strengthen the relationship that that person has, to try to build the affinity that a consumer has with our brand. All right, so I have to say, there was a world before Emarsys and a world with Emarsys. The world before Emarsys, we've been working with Emarsys for just over a year now, actually. And the world before Emarsys was that everybody looked the same. I don't know if anybody's ever been in that position here, but everybody looked the same. Man, woman, heavy drinker, light drinker, like drinks beer, drinks wine, everybody got the same email every single Friday. All right, so now there's a world with Emarsys. And with Emarsys, we really do our best. We're not perfect. We do our best to try to treat each person, to understand that person as best we can, and to treat each person as that individual that we know that they are. All right, I'm going to talk about RPC. This is a metric we use internally. So we call it revenue per communication. We could call it revenue per email or revenue per push, but if I broaden that, it's revenue per communication. It's a way we think about efficiency and effectiveness of our own communications. So we do have ad hoc emails. We still have the weekly email that goes out on Friday. Friday night's our biggest night. We still have the weekly email that goes out. It is personalized to a certain degree, but we send that out and we say that is a revenue per communication of approximately 1. Let's just call it 1. We have segmented emails that go out to larger groups that are based on the types of purchases somebody made or the frequency with which somebody purchased, and those are 3x more effective than the ad hoc emails. We have trigger emails that go out. And the trigger emails might go out based on what somebody did specifically on the site, whether they purchased or on the app, of course, and those are 6 times more effective. And then what I've left out here is the last thing that's super important to us, which is push, right? So a lot of our transactions in the app, and push across all of these different types of emails I mentioned, push is 24 more times effective than the weekly ad hoc email that we send out. So it is a really, really powerful channel for us. All right, I'm going to go through 3 examples of personalization that we do. And the first we call price drop. We don't set pricing, right? We're a marketplace, so the retailers on our platforms are the ones that actually set pricing. However, we, of course, monitor pricing on the platform, so we know when any particular retailer drops a price. And we customize this, we personalize this in 2 important ways. The first is by location, right? A retailer in Los Angeles that drops the price is not very useful to somebody in Miami, right? So we have to overlay location with the retailer and the geography that anybody would get that product delivered to. And the second thing is we want to make this communication uber relevant, and the way we do that is that we only send this to people that have bought that exact product before, right? So if I bought a particular vodka in Miami, the retailer in Miami discounts that more than a couple dollars, we then will trigger that for that very appropriate consumer. Not all consumers, but only that consumer in Miami that's raised their hand and said they like that product. Okay, second way we drive repeat is through a new store communication. Again, this is not something we've done. Like we're not generating new news by adding a new store for the consumer. This is something that the platform's doing. So on the platform, we're signing up new retailers all the time. I mentioned 800. We probably have 900 by now. Every day we have another 1, 2, 5 retailers that are coming on the platform. And when we have a new retailer on the platform, even if we already deliver to your area, we let you know, right? And this is important for a couple reasons. I mean, one, we know that consumers like new news, right? So this just brings them back to the app. And when there's more stores to choose from, all of the metrics on Drizly look better. With multiple stores, conversion rate goes up dramatically with multiple stores. And the other thing is that people might have an affinity for a particular store in their area. So they might have transacted on Drizly, but thought it was too bad that the liquor store that they like in their local area is not actually on the platform. Well, now we can tell them which local store is on their platform, and it brings them back as well. All right. Third way we drive repeat is through what we call our active buyer campaign. This is one of those segments I was mentioning before, one of the segmented campaigns. So people fall into this campaign when they've bought twice, 2, 3, 4 times. Once you've bought twice, you start to fall into the active buyer campaign. And yes, this is several emails and several push notifications. As you would have seen up on the screen, everything that we do is multi-channel, like I mentioned. Everything is via push, everything is via email, where we can appropriately. And one of the things I guess I would call out that's interesting here, yes, this is tailored based on what you bought, based on your location, but one of the things that we think is interesting about this is we've used internal data science to be able to work out when somebody is buying and try to predict that, and then we customize the communications as such. So for instance, if I come on the platform, I'm a customer, I come on the platform and I buy once a week, every Wednesday, we're going to tailor our communications based on that type of cadence. If I'm another customer and I come on the platform and I've only bought once a month religiously, but once a month for 3 or 4 months in a row, then we start to spread out the communications to trigger that purchase, but we realize you're not a weekly buyer, and we customize the communications based on the time frame. All right, so these are just a few of the ways. There's more to go through, of course, but these are just a few of the ways that we're actually trying to drive repeat. Now, I mentioned driving brand. We drive brand, part of the way we drive brand through email, but very much through push as well. Kind of a fun Friday afternoon push, honestly. People are getting towards the weekend, and we want to lighten up the atmosphere. So this one in particular, this one's saying, drink bourbon, it's good for the soul, - your grandfather, probably. All right, so we like this. We have a little fun with our push messages. And then what we really like is the feedback that we get from consumers. So here's somebody that immediately, this is within like minutes. We send these push notifications out, and within minutes, we can check Twitter and see what's happening. And we see this guy that really complimented our copy, and it's nice that this one consumer did that, but then, we clicked and we checked out this guy, and he has 65,000 followers. So it's nice that this one push message we did to our own audience immediately exploded into 65,000 other people seeing this. That's one example, and here's another one where we had fun one day with kind of a message about like a meeting, an upcoming meeting, obviously not real. But we sent this out, and again, within 5 minutes, we started seeing these great messages on Twitter. We saw somebody saying, I only keep Drizly on because these messages are kind of funny. Like this is, you saw the presentation earlier about brand and how you make people feel. So for us, this is really a critical element. It's not just about personalization and driving purchase, but it's also about having a little fun and driving that emotional connection with the brand. So this is one message. There's another one we got. And then my favorite that just says, @Drizly, shit, I'm late for this message. All right, so that's what we're doing today, both at least a taste of what we're doing today in terms of personalization, a taste of what we're doing in terms of the brand. And I mentioned that personalization, I think it's real. The question is how achievable it is to be done. I don't know that you're ever done. Like it's a journey, and we recognize we are only partway in the journey. So there's a lot of things that we can do in the future. Here's a couple things that are upcoming. One is weather personalization. So we deliver, we don't deliver, sorry, our retailers deliver, but like any delivery business in the US, it's really responsive to the weather. We know when it's raining in New York City, we are pretty excited. On a Friday night with a terrible rainstorm in New York City, we are really excited about that. And when that happens, we know the business already responds better to rain and snow. People want to stay inside. They love to get their things delivered. But we're not doing anything about it now. So what we're going to be doing upcoming is we're going to be doing a targeted campaign, downloading weather from all over the country. So anywhere where it's a really forecast for bad weather, bad snow, bad rain, we're going to be messaging that person in the middle of the day saying, tough weather's on the horizons. It's a good night for Drizly. The second thing is around sports. For you non-Americans in the room, these are logos from the NFL, from the American football, I should say. And this is a great opportunity and a great use case for push as well as a mobile-first company. So the reason I say that is a lot of these games take place on Sunday afternoons, right? 1 p.m. and 4 p.m. starts religiously. And the fact is, at 5 of 1 is not the time somebody wants to go out and get their beer to sit down and watch the game. So we can easily push. We can do customized messages across the country by team at the right time based on every single game to load in and to message people about the fact that the big game in Cincinnati or wherever it is about to start. Don't go out. Let Drizly bring you the drinks. And the last thing is geolocation. So we know there's an interesting use case that we see all the time. We keep getting these emails in from people that say, I live in New York, I use Drizly in New York, but I was in Miami on vacation, and the truth is, I had no idea where to get a bottle of wine. I typed in Drizly, and the next thing I know, I had a bottle of wine brought to my hotel. So this is already a common use case. This is already part of the customer journey. We're going to play this up. So we're going to know that when somebody buys 4 times, maybe to the same address in Boston, we know that person, we're going to assume that person lives in Boston. When that mobile phone shows up in San Diego, they could be there for work, they could be there for a vacation. But at that time, we'll probably message, welcome to San Diego. Drizly has 18 retailers that we work with in San Diego. We're here if we need you. Again, playing up the use case that we know is already common consumer behavior, but we're gonna at least remind people that we're there and that we're in a new city for them. All right, so that's what we got for a little bit of where we are today and very little bit of where we're going tomorrow as well.
Awesome. Awesome, awesome, awesome.
Again,
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So personalization is not just, first name, last name. It's all about context and also content. It was just fantastic. Now, there's a whole lot of wizardry going on in the background. And Erin, would you mind taking us through the technical wizardry, please?
Happily.
Thank you.
First, thank you, Scott, for being so forthcoming and talking to us about some of your challenges with personalization. And I'm going to take us through what you're currently doing with personalization, where you are now, and where we're going with personalization. So let's first take a look at your price drop campaign. And really what you're doing now is you're doing a lot of the heavy lifting. You right now are identifying when a product has dropped in price of $2 or more, you're taking those products as candidate products, you're looking at the customers that have purchased that product before, and then or if they had browsed that product before, and they become a candidate for your campaign. And you're sending everyone an email, and you're sending some customers a push. And this is based on your upload on a daily basis to us on prices and candidates for that particular campaign. So let's stop for a second, talk about where we're taking things with your personalization. And what we're looking to do is really capitalize on all the different levers that we can pull to make sure that we are adding personalization everywhere that we possibly can. And that is not always these gigantic leaps into the new personalization one-to-one world, but what it is it's really making sure that the levers that we have and the different layers of personalization that we can add to, that we're making sure that we're adding those layers wherever we can. This is about making the customer the hero. We're looking at have we targeted everyone that is appropriate for this campaign? Are we targeting those who are going to be the people most likely to respond to the campaign? When are we sending that campaign? What type of response are we looking to generate from that campaign? And what are we sending? Are we sending a push message? Are we sending an email message? So let's take another look at what the future of this campaign is going to be with personalization. And what we're doing here is we're taking some of the functionality that we currently have in our platform, and then some of the functionality that we're bringing to our platform very promptly, and we'll be working and are working through those use cases now. So first, we're looking at the who. The who is really, we'll use relational data to create the who. And the reason that we're doing this is we're taking the heavy lifting from Drizly, and we're absorbing that. And this gives us an immense amount of flexibility. We'll be looking at any customer that has purchased that product in the last 10 days, 20 days, however we decide that length of time should be. And we know whether the customer has bought that has bought that product through the website or on the app, because we've got that data internally. So we actually can take on a lot of the heavy lifting for you. But what if we didn't stop there? What if we said this is really our revenue-generating event? We don't want to always send out price drop campaigns every time the price drops. We want to use this quite strategically. So we want to make sure that we're sending it to the people that are most likely to respond to this campaign. So we're going to layer artificial intelligence on top of that, and we're going to choose those that are most likely to purchase. And the combination of those two are going to be your target segment. Now we have to decide when do we want to send this. And we want to send this at the time that that particular customer is most likely to open that message, whether it's an email or a push message. So we're going to use artificial intelligence again, because that tells us for that particular customer whether they're likely to open that campaign or not, and it's based on that particular customer's behavior. So we're edging close to that one-to-one communication here. Now, this is really where we feel that mobile first. We know that the majority of the customers are going to be opening their email in their mobile. And we know that, generally speaking, for the modern population, but for Drizly even more, because it's a mobile-focused company, and they tend to get mobile-focused customers. So we know that somewhere north of 55% of their customers are going to be opening the email on their mobile. So we're going to design for that first. We're going to design them using our mobile-first email editor, because that's the majority of the experiences. Second, what we're going to do is we're making this very easy for you to take the capabilities that we have within our product, and it's going to make it even easier to add personalization at every step of the creation of that campaign. So we have personalized tokens. We create those once against the use case. Then we can pull those into every channel that we use them. So these are some of the ways that we've brought personalization to make it very, very easy for our marketers to use. Then we also want to have a rich media push. So this is an addition that we're bringing into Drizly. And we know that rich media push messages are so much more effective than text messages. So we're going to capitalize on this. We're going to give them an image of the product that we're marketing to them based on what they had purchased in the past, whether it was on the app or the website. We're going to use those same tokens again. So now it's very easy to create that unified customer journey. And we're going to make sure it's a rich push message because we know just by that rich push that somewhere between 18% and 56% the open rate will increase just by adding that imagery that's pertinent. So what have we done here? We've pulled every lever that we could, and we've taken the heavy lifting of identifying the candidate customers for any given campaign on. We've taken that on, so it's that much easier for Drizly to stay focused on other things rather than having your data scientists create these lists and upload them to us. And it allows you to respond much faster. So now you have a near real-time response if you were to use the campaign in that fashion. We determined when to send it based on using artificial intelligence. So we have a learned machine learning that we've identified for every particular customer when they're most likely to respond or to open a campaign. So we're going to use that to our advantage. And we're going to send out an email and a rich media push. Next, I want to take a look at a really fun campaign. So your aspirational campaign to be able to use weather, because that's a determinant. We know when it rains that people are thinking about Drizly. There's thinking about drinking more specifically, and they want Drizly to bring them their drink. So this is an opportunity to make sure that we're using an in-environment situation and capitalizing on that opportunity. We're going to take all the customers that are in a Drizly market that has a rain likelihood of 80% or greater. And how will we do that? We're going to use relational data again, the relational data segments again, because this gives us that great flexibility. We have an API to a weather service that identifies those cities on a daily basis that have 80% or higher likelihood of rain. And we're going to pull those cities in, and we're going to take the customers that are in those cities, and that creates our segment. Next, we're going to do kind of two things here when we look at when we want to prompt that message. So one is looking at, we will be sending an in-app message. And what we want to do with the in-app message is any day where there's 80% or greater likelihood of rain, we want to use that in-app message anytime a customer will come into the app that day if they're in a city with that rain. And the reason we're doing that is because we don't have to be as well-timed. We know that there's a high likelihood of rain. The customer has already shown intent because they've come into the app. So we don't have to be as exact on the timing. It's akin to somebody walking in your store. If there's a piece of data you can give to them to prompt them to commit to that sale, you wouldn't hold that information back. So we're going to do the same thing with the in-app message. But next, with our rich media push, we also know that Drizly's customers, apparently between 2 and 3, are always thinking about ordering their alcohol, which is interesting. It's not 2 yet, but everyone is thinking about ordering that alcohol. So we want to make sure when they're in that mindset of starting to think about their evening, that we capitalize on that. So between 2 and 3, we want to send out that rich push message to customers. What we're going to do is we're going to send 2 types of messages. So we're going to have the in-app message and we're going to have the rich push message, but we're going to layer on another level here. We have the ability to know what the product affinity is for Drizly's customers. So we know that that customer tends to order wine or prefers the product category of liquor. So we're going to use that knowledge to add another layer of personalization on for that customer, again, making that customer the hero of this communication, but still using the environmental condition as a prompt for that communication. We're going to do the same with the in-app message. We'll certainly name the city. We'll address that it's high likelihood of rain, and then we'll give them a product imagery that's matched to that particular customer's affinity. So what have we done here? We've pulled the levers. We've made sure that any particular city that had an 80% higher of rain likely, those are our target customers. We're sending it when they're most likely to order it for a push message because that's that disruptive message that's going to pull them into the app. And then for anyone that's gone into the app that day, we're capitalizing on that knowledge, and we're going to make sure that we're going to give them this message so we can get them to commit to the final sale. We're sending out the rich media push message, and we're also sending out the in-app message. And I would be remiss as a product manager to not have some type of product roadmap. So I just want to give a glimpse. This is by no means exhaustive, but this gives a glimpse of what we're doing in 2019. I think I've exemplified that a bit through your personalization journeys. But what I want to draw attention to are we are really, really focused on ensuring that we're delivering the capabilities in the mobile platform that allow you to capitalize on personalization. And some of the important capabilities that we'll be bringing forward are in-app messaging, inbox, and geolocation. And another level of that is that we're able to tap into the capabilities that we've talked about over the last couple of days that are being delivered through the platform. So we get to plug into those capabilities and bring those into mobile. And we have to look at mobile not in isolation. I obviously think mobile is incredibly important, but I recognize it as a piece of the customer's journey, not the sole journey. So we want to make sure that we're putting mobile into that journey, but we are putting it alongside the knowledge and the learnings and the communications across the platform. So that's one of the wonderful things that we're able to do at Emarsys with an omni-channel platform is take advantage of these other capabilities. So when you're creating a tactic or strategic report, that mobile is a part of that journey. It doesn't sit separate from that journey. So this is how we see moving forward into 2019, and as Peter Drucker puts it, a very well-known business author, there's no greater way to predict the future than to create it, and this is the future we're creating. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Erin. Thank you so much. That was fantastic. I really enjoyed it. I've got one last question for Sean. So we have a lot of brands coming out which are predominantly mobile first. What's the future for all these brands, and what do they have to do to sustain as a mobile-first brand? Because it's so easy to just start up a business and beat your competitor, etc. How are you going to sustain your business? Where how to stop others from doing what you do?
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, so again, I think we're most focused on just understanding more and more and more about the customer, and then how they interact on a mobile basis. So for us, the app has certain capabilities already that our website does not have, and what we want to be able to do. I mean, somebody mentioned a couple of days ago Stitch Fix, right? So I'm not saying we're going to be Stitch Fix, but right now we like to have a good, clean, easy e-commerce experience. And I hope that by the end of 2019, we have an e-commerce experience that is so highly personal, using both first-party data and third data of what we think somebody likes, that it's really a curated experience. It's not just a normal e-commerce experience, but it's a really curated one. And the other thing is to just, again, always think, what is the use case? So on one hand, we like to think about just the consumer, and then how does mobile fit into that? And the other is, what capabilities does mobile give us specifically that we just couldn't do otherwise? The one I mentioned on the football game, like nobody's checking their email at 12:55, 5 minutes before the game, but of course they have their phone in their hand, and that's a perfect use case. So always pushing boundaries on what the use cases are that are really mobile specific and thinking ahead of the curve.
Interesting. I've got one more question. I always have questions.
Okay.
So how would you position or justify the spend you're doing on personalization to the board, like to your CEO and the others? How do you normally go about doing it? And what's your advice for the other marketers when they want to spend on personalization?
Yeah, so I mean, first of all, a lot can be tested, right? So even right now, even in those ad hoc emails I mentioned that we send out on a weekly basis, right now we have a test going where sometimes we pick products, and sometimes we're going to just curate the products based on our own internal intelligence and recommendations. So the very first thing is, where you can test, right? Nothing speaks better than an A/B test with a terrific result. The other thing is, I think, beyond the testing, is just having a vision for where you want to go as a company, right? So if you can get the vision bought in at the highest level, then I always think that's where some of the hard work is, and then the executing that vision just comes a lot easier. So it's the strategic buy-in, I think, to start, and then executing the vision is just, as per the strategy that we agreed on, now we're going to go ahead and execute.
Brilliant. Golden words of advice. We appreciate your time. Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, Scott.
Thanks, Raj.
Erin, thank you so much.